What's up, Doc? Welcome to the Docs Get Money podcast. Are you a badass doctor killing it professionally and has bigger dreams than just clocking in and out of the hospital? Do you want to leave behind a legacy that is as lit as an HBCU homecoming? Want to know how other doctors are getting to the big bag? That's right, making 5, 6, and 7 figures without putting on the white coat? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kimberly, but you can call me Kim or KB. I went from being a burnt out and overwhelmed emergency physician to the founder and CEO of 2 6-figure non-clinical companies and beating burnout along the way. I'm also your business coach, here to help you make money moves to change the world. This podcast isn't just about making money, though. It's about leveling up your life, mindset, and bank account so you can build an empire that's as iconic as Beyonce. You ready? Let's get into it. Hey, Doc. Burned out? Ready to just burn the whole hospital down? Well, let's start a fire. Okay, no, not in the hospital, but in your bank account. And from Side Hustler to CEO, my signature one-on-one business coaching program, you'll transform your burnout into a fire and start your own profitable coaching, consulting, or midterm rental business and make clinical cash in 90 days or less. That's right, 4 or 5 figures in 90 days or less. This is only for doctors who are done being overworked and undervalued and need a way out of the hospital now. With your fire offer, you're not just dreaming about escaping clinical practice, you're building your own emergency exit. In 90 days, you could be your own boss, making bank, and actually enjoying your life again. So are you ready to swap those singed scrubs for CEO status? Then hit me up at Dr. Kimberly B on Instagram with the word burn, and let's turn that burnout into the bag. What's up, Doc? Thank you for coming back for yet another episode of the Docs Get Money podcast. This is another interview episode, and as you can see, there's a lot of different people I've got on my screen here today. I'm super excited to be talking to the doctors, the ladies, the fellow EM physicians of the Whole Physician. They are a group of emergency physicians who started coaching other doctors and other high achievers in the house of medicine out of their own burnout after they've had individual experiences with burnout. I met them through AAM. They've sponsored a brunch a luncheon that we had for the women's section. And we also were on a panel discussion together. So of course, with EM, with women, with burnout, with all of that, we had so much in common. So I'm super grateful to have each and every one of you ladies on the podcast today. And I will let you guys go ahead and start introducing yourself. So Dr. Kendra, why don't you start?
Thank you. Thanks for thinking of us too. We're super excited to be here on the Docs Get Money podcast. Why not? Sounds like a good idea. So yes, we are 3 EM docs. I board certified EM in Southwest Missouri, practicing clinically still, but my journey wasn't always that peaceful and forward, I guess. At one point, I really got stuck. And it wasn't really too long into my career. I want to say it was less than 10 years out. So maybe around that 8-year out of residency, maybe 9 years out of residency, I really started to feel, before I recognized or was aware of what was happening, I really just started to almost feel out of control. Like I felt like I could not keep on top of really anything. And what I strive to do, as physicians, I mean, we are high achievers, but we kind of get maladaptive after a while. And so that perfectionism really caused me to, when I couldn't be perfect in every area of my life, including at work and at home, I really started to spiral a little bit into like, what am I doing? I'm not cut out for any of these roles really, and much less doing them all at the same time. And so I started to really feel the effects of burnout. I really wasn't sure that's what it was, kind of insidious. But it was that learned helplessness set in, the limiting beliefs set in, just a lot of what we talk about in coaching. Now that I have the language, and feel more bold to talk about it, it really was what was happening. And then it led to just feeling stuck because then you thought, oh my gosh, I've spent all this time and money, that sunk cost fallacy. I've spent all this time and money, I've dedicated my life. I've made so many sacrifices, right? Because you're in grade 32 before you finally get there. And so I'm like, holy cow, like I'm in grade 32, not just kidding, but you're just like, I've spent all this time and money. What is happening? And, I was approaching 40 and, this like vision of 40 was like rapidly approaching. And I thought it looked way, my thoughts about what it would be like my life at 40 was so vastly different. I was like, oh my gosh, this is totally not what I thought it was going to be like. And so, maybe just a little bit of blue and feeling down, depressed, just really started to introspect a little. And I work at the same shop as Amanda. And so, before I knew what a boundary was, I had reached a point in my working clinically shifts at a busy level 1 trauma where it's just like high, you're throttled down the whole shift. You don't have time to think, pee, drink, eat, grieve, debrief, anything, right? Day after day. And so I had just decided things were getting this is before the pandemic too, by the way. Things were getting rough. I mean, nurses are dropping like flies, techs are leaving, docs are leaving, and we had a pretty solid group. And so one of the things that really kept me in it for a lot longer than I probably should have was my group. I mean, we had a tight group. We were in it to win it together. And part of my reluctance to even set a boundary was just letting my colleagues down. Just that sense of like, well, if I quit or if I go somewhere else or do something else, I'm letting like 35 partners down that I really feel connected to. And on shift, we are like a team. Like I had their back, they had my back, just a really strong group of colleagues. And so at one point I had a couple of near misses with patients that if I wasn't micromanaging would have been pretty devastating. And I'm the type of person that takes a lot of responsibility. I really own a lot, maybe more than I should at times. And so it came down to like, if this happens or this happens, I'm forced, like I feel my hands forced for the resignation. And I made it about patient safety because that's my passion. My passion is efficient patient care and safety, like taking care of patients well and safely. And so I had made these 2 boundaries that if these 2 things happen, it almost was like there we go. And so one of my boundaries happened and then the second one, and it was like typed up the resignation and I still battled with it. Like I still couldn't hand it in because all I could think about were my colleagues. But it just came time, and handing in that resignation was, it took a lot of guts, right? Because I did not have a plan. And I'm married to another physician, which I felt like layered another complexity on it because he's a very big planner. And so for him, it was like, I'm handing in my resignation. He's like, okay, well, what are you going to do? It's just like,
Quit. And that's about it.
I have made one decision, and that means resign. Like that was the only decision I had made. So I'm like, if you're asking for my 2-month plan, I don't have that right yet. So it just added another level of complexity, and just at the time not feeling validated that I was literally hanging on by a thread and just doing that silent suffering we talk about, and just not really confiding in anyone. So, anyways, after that. Amanda tells later that she's like, when she ended her resignation, she was like, oh, we can do that. We just don't even think about taking care of ourselves to the point of like, sometimes you have to do something, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same result, right? We talk about that insanity. And so sometimes you just got to step out, do something kind of bold, but really you put yourself first for the first time in forever. Looking back, I'm like, man, I just honored myself, right? And so that began the journey of, meeting with Amanda. We were kind of trying to figure out, like we both knew, like something has got to change, and like what is possible. And it really helps to have another colleague to do that with, because like that was one of my things. I was stuck. Like I didn't feel like I had skills or anything to do anything else. Like I thought, I'm a doctor. That's my identity. That's what I do. However, when I started meeting with a coach, it was like, okay, can we list the qualifications you have as a doctor? And then
Mm-hmm.
she showed like 5 job descriptions that had all of those same qualities, and they were not in the medical field. And what she was trying to get me to see was, see all these qualifications you feel like are just under the job description of a doctor? Look, there's 5 other job descriptions of very well paying, stable jobs that may not work nights, weekends, and holidays that you
Mm-hmm.
could have, right? She was just trying to show me that you aren't stuck. You have a lot of good qualities and they can be applied anywhere. And so that's when we started to branch out. And then, Laura and Amanda, they trained in the same place. And so Laura was like, "Hey, what are you guys doing? Like, yeah, like I'm all in. Like, we got to do this." And so that's how we got together. And then just became a process of like, okay, who are we? Who do we want to be? How do we want to show up? And what is it going to take? And so then
Mm-hmm.
began the process. We were all meeting with coaches, getting coaching. The stuff we learned, the nuggets, like leaving coaching every day, like, holy cow. Like, just as much as I was like bought in with my colleagues, I was like, we all got to know this. We all got to have this information. This was never taught to us. And this is the $1 million, like, this is
Yes.
it, right? Like, this is the stuff. This is the stuff that just really takes you to where you want to go. And just starting to think, okay, who do I want to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. So just all of that together. And then like, okay, we got to do this. And so then became the process of like, okay, let's get certified. Like, how do we do that? What's the next steps? And then, what is our plan to get this out to I mean, of course we love all doctors, but we have a niche for our, the dumpster fire that the EM docs endure.
Yes.
And of course the pandemic was hitting about that time. So we really developed that niche for EM docs, but really, obviously, we have all kinds of doctor clients now. But the point was like, how do we package this so we can mass deliver, right? We got to get
Mm-hmm.
this information out. And so that's when we started the whole physician, going through the training, and then none of us are MBA. None of us have our MBA. And so then it was also the journey of like, oh my gosh, what is it going to be like to run a business? And
Mm-hmm.
then, Laura quit as well for a time. But when we went back, it was just a game changer, because then we could still walk the footsteps, but we had such new tools and such
Mm-hmm.
empowerment that it was just different. Working clinically was just not the same, in a good way, in a transformed way, and in
Right.
a way that like we all got to do that. Like, we all got to have this. We can all come back to this clinical career and do this, and it doesn't have to be that all or none. Like, we're either all
Mm-hmm.
in or all out. So in the process, right, I was able to cut down, and actually that was a strategy that I had done before I quit. I was like, maybe I'll cut down shifts, because if I'm here less, I'll suffer less, right? If I have to
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
experience this less, maybe I'll feel better 50% more of the time. And that was not the case. I mean, even cutting back, it just opened up, mo problems. So, but going back now, having this, kind of side hustle, we call it lovingly, it has allowed for a lot of flexibility, not working as much clinically, but also realizing I can diversify my clinical practice too. So I personally came back to a leadership position, which I never in a million years thought I would be any kind of leadership in in healthcare. And so I'm the medical director of our freestanding shop, and I still work at that busy level 1 trauma. But then I also go out to the community and some of these rural hospitals. It's a different environment. You take a lot of the good from each of these shops, and knowing that they're kind of just have their own little quirks. You're not constantly throttled down at the busy level 1 trauma. Out in the
Mm-hmm.
rural area, you actually get to like sit down and talk to your patients. And then the freestanding shop, it's nice. People, want to be there, and they want you to take care of them. So with all of that, and that path of discovery and just a lot of self introspection, but also knowing that, like, really, if you are ready, taking the first step is all you have to be brave enough to do. And so now we're here, and now we're on the Docs Get Money podcast.
That was an incredible introduction. I have so many questions to ask you about, your story, but I feel like some of the questions that I have is going to come up for with everybody. So I'm going to let Dr. Laura take it from here. And why don't you give us an introduction to yourself and all about you?
Yeah. Okay. So where to start? I I actually grew up in a home that was kind of unstable, and my parents got divorced senior year of high school, and that informed my decision to never want to feel dependent on somebody else for my income,
Mm-hmm.
and to choose medicine as something that would always be there for me. Like security was something I valued very, very highly. And when I left residency, went into clinical practice, I was in practice for a few years. I I became very, very burned out very early in my career. And I had, two little kids, like 3 and under, and
Mm.
my husband was an anesthesiologist, so he was leaving at 6 in the morning. So it was all me from 6 on. And with our shifts, like I was sometimes getting home at 4 in the morning
Mm-hmm.
because I was, I was there charting afterwards after my shift ended at 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just toast. And so I ended up quitting. There were so many things that led to that burnout. This was before COVID, before EMRs. It was all, there were still problems then.
What do you think it was, if I may
So many
ask you?
things. So for me, I would come to work sometimes. Our department was understaffed at the time, and as many are right now. I would come to work. Oftentimes, I would do swing shifts. Come in at 3 or 4. Every bed was full. The halls were lined with elderly people on stretchers, like vomiting. Like it all just felt very unsafe and scary. And then, I liked my patients, I liked the people I worked with, but because I did not have a sustainable life outside of
Mm-hmm.
medicine, like I wasn't able to get enough sleep and and like really pour into myself at all. Forget exercise, eating healthy, any of that stuff. I just it felt like a survival thing. I was like, I remember telling my director was like, well, you may never be able to come back. I was like, I don't care. Like I could not care less. I hate this place. I'm so tired, and I'm done. And then after I quit for 3 years, and during that time I realized there's actually a lot about medicine that I love, and a lot about the ER that I love.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came back. It's been over 15 years ago that I came back, and over that period of time have been able to make some mindset shifts, which were hugely accelerated by learning techniques from coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, major level up there. But I'm able to approach my clinical career in a different way
Mm-hmm.
now, and put more of an emphasis on taking care of myself, and realize the choice that I have in everything that I do. I choose to go to work. I could go do many, many other things, but I do choose this career for many, many reasons. And I love it. And now that we have the opportunity to use those experiences that we had through our burnout and help other docs pull themselves out of that situation, it
Mm-hmm.
that like to me that is my ikigai, honestly. Like that is the place where I feel such connection. And so it was worth going through all of that to be able to have what I need to help other doctors now. That is just my absolute favorite thing to do in the world, is coach other doctors.
I love that because Laura, I feel the same way. I feel like after my burnout and now finding coaching, and being a coach as well too, when I'm actually working with clients and working with other doctors more specifically and being able to help them, that's like you said, that's just my ikigai moment as well too. It's like, oh, this is what I meant to do, to see the change, to see the shifts, the realizations, the awareness, all of that is like, okay, it reminds me of why I went into medicine in the first place,
Yeah.
to kind of see that I'm actually shifting someone's life in real time, like face to face sometimes. So I totally relate to that. I was going to ask you, so you quit for 3 years and then
Yeah.
came back. So what did you
Yes.
do during that time? And were you like Kendra, you just said, F it, I'm gone. I don't have no
Yeah.
plan. I got to go. Or what did
Yeah.
that 3 years look like that for you?
Yeah. Well, I was lucky in that I went to the Medical College of Georgia, which
Okay.
was dirt cheap as far as medical schools go. It was an outstanding education, and I didn't come out with a ton of loans. So we got those paid off pretty early. And so I had flexibility. I volunteered at a local children's clinic, and clearly, I had the privilege of having a spouse who could support me. Not everyone has that, but I will say there's other stuff I could have done if I decided to quit medicine. There's so many other things. I mean, I was just telling one of my clients the other day, who's a pediatrician, have you looked at what these billionaires are paying their nannies? Like, come on, tell me they wouldn't want a doctor for a nanny. Like, yeah, sure.
Exactly. You get
Pay
to
me
play with
300
kids.
grand and give me a car and a house and everything. Yeah. So there's so much that is available to us. I didn't have to go be a nanny. I would have, that would have been fun too. I was taking care of my kids, and I was volunteering at a local clinic and keeping up with I kept my license active and kept, doing CME and all that stuff, just to kind of keep my options open.
Mm-hmm.
And they say you can go back. You can go back. You don't. I mean, I think I had to shadow for like 2 shifts or something
Mm-hmm.
before I was let loose. And it's like riding a bicycle. You do not forget this stuff.
I think that's so common, especially for us as doctors who don't have, none of us have an MBA, I don't believe. I have an MPH, but that's definitely not the same thing. But there's something that tells us that, well, what if I step out and start this business or do something new, or if I quit or take a pause, like, and it doesn't work, well, what do I do now? It's like we forget that we have been to grade 32, as Kendra
Yes.
said. It's like we don't lose the skills of being a doctor just because you're
Mm-mm.
not in the setting all the time, day to day. It's like riding a bike. You're still there. Just catch up with some CME. Like you said, you did some saddle shifts, and you were back on the
Mm-hmm.
saddle. Like, okay, yeah, I know
Yep.
exactly what this is like again. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that holds so many of us back about taking the step into entrepreneurship, or quitting, or pivoting, or just doing something different, because we just think that, like you said, the sunk cost fallacy, like, oh, it's just all these years, and if I fail at that, then I'm just lost, I'm just destitute. I'm like, you went to medical school for a reason, for a sense of security. Thankfully, all of us, I always tell people, I will never not have a job, because there's always
Right.
someone that's doing something stupid, or there's always an accident that's going
That's
to
right.
happen. Exactly. So
That's
we're
yes.
always going to be into a job. But I think our brains, our amygdalas tell us that,
Yes.
just to keep us safe, like, no, don't step out, to stay in your little bubble of
Mm-hmm.
comfort. And this is all you know how to do, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. But that's just factually not true. And I love the fact, Laura, that you said, like, it took 2 shadow shifts, and you're like
Yep.
back in the game, and you're seeing patients, and you're doing great.
Yeah. Yeah. So much better than before because I chose to come back. I chose medicine knowing what it is. The first time we choose medicine, we don't know what we're doing.
No.
Like, we have no idea. I was able to choose it knowing what I was getting into and still choosing it. So I love my job now.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Well, thank you for sharing that. And Amanda, last but certainly not least, I definitely want to hear everything that you've got to share. Please go ahead.
Okay, well, I have a similar story. Board certified emergency physician, and also experienced burnout. And I recognize that so much of my burnout was from maladaptive perfectionism, and that voice in my head that if I was to ever miss something or not do something perfectly, that voice would not shut up. And so that's hard to escape in an emergency department whenever things start going again, just like everybody else was way before COVID, but an overflowing waiting room, no way to disposition patients, hall beds everywhere. Something was going to go wrong. But instead of it being like but good job anyway for showing up and do your best, that was not available to me before. It was only like, if you screw this up, you're a failure, you're a terrible doctor. Not only that, you're a terrible human, was the voice that was just rampant in my head. Well, in that scenario, something bad is going to happen.
Absolutely.
And so I started breaking out in hives at work. Like, and I recognized on some level that it was psychosomatic stuff. We had scribes even, and I'd be like, ha ha, I think I'm allergic to work. Like, no, really. Like, I think I'm allergic to work. But that was only more shame inducing for me, that like I wasn't tough enough. I wasn't cut out for this. And like, what else am I going to do? I'm a PGY. At the time I would have been, I don't know, 21 or 20 or something like that. I don't know what. I've dedicated all this time and I can't hack it. And so I would load up on Zyrtec and all kinds of stuff before a shift, like not recognizing my body is screaming for some sort of something's
Shift,
not right
change.
about this.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so anyway, that was happening for a while. And I finally had one weekend. I also was the like president of my kids' PTO at school, and so was responsible for like a big fundraising event that we were going to try for the first time. Something wild happened. My ankle caught a door in some sort of way. I had a giant gash on the back of my heel. Like I considered, like, did I actually clip my Achilles? But no, I could flex and extend, whatever. But I didn't have time to go get it fixed. Like, I wasn't going to go to the ER, first of all. I was not going to go to someplace. I just called my husband, who's anesthesia, and was like, can you bring me home some sutures or like glue or something from the hospital? I'm the worst, like, I'm the most ill-prepared ER doc at home. I got no supplies at home at all.
Same. Me neither.
Which seems wild, but I've got nothing. I just don't want it there. Like, I don't want to be on call, right? So go to Kendra's house. She's got all the stuff, you know. I don't know if you really do or not, but anywho. So I'm oozing blood and serous fluid everywhere. My husband finally gets home 12 hours later. I try to glue it, but it's so oozy and gross that I have this like gaping hole, and now I'm like too far out to get it. Anyway, that's step one of the weekend plague, was this giant oozing gash. But I didn't have time because I had responsibilities. Number two, I get this tingling in my side, and I was like, God, that's not what shingles feels like, right? And sure enough,
Your body started
shingles.
to say, listen,
Yes,
stop,
you're not listening to the hives. Yeah, so I
Warning
got
signs
shingles
were
on
going
top.
off.
Yeah, I'm oozing. Now I have shingles. The show's still going on. I'm like, whatever. This is the worst part. Was my husband's a hunter, which, think about that, whatever you want. Now you're in Arkansas, Dr. Brown, so you're going to have to get familiar with this situation. But he's like, hey, I have these deer stands up, and I just need to show you where they are in case I fall out and paralyze so that you can find me. So we go, like, this is just a normal thing. And
Okay.
so we go over there. We go over to our property, and the dog is running around, and the dog comes and sits by me. Well, apparently the dog had picked up like a bucket load of chiggers, and they go straight from my dog to me, in the nether regions. Oh, I had an oozing wound, shingles. Now I could care less about my shingles because the chiggers are the worst things. If you all live in a place that doesn't have chiggers, you are blessed. Wake up for your gratitude journal every day. You can write, I don't live in a place with chiggers, because they're the worst, itchiest, most horrible pest. Ticks are pretty close, but they're really bad. And
I testify.
itching, yes, itching, but sometimes would actually itch my shingles too, which then hurt like the dickens. So anywho, I'm like, you know what? I'm reminded of a story in the Bible of a series of plagues
Exactly.
where I'm afraid that they're just going to keep coming. Just different flavors of plagues are going to continue to happen to me until I do something. And so for the first time ever, and like Kendra said, Kendra had already quit at this point, and I watched her leave like, well, what do you mean? Like what? It had never, I was in such a state of learned helplessness, hopelessness. This is just what you do. You just keep your head down. I signed up for this. I was gaslighting myself. I did not sign up for this, but that's what I would just tell the voice in my head was saying that. Like, and another thing that is such a helpful statement to other people, but was like so not helpful to me is like, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Right.
Well, I did always feel blessed. And so maybe this is just part of it. This is just, I suffer through this because I am so blessed, right? Like, I see how like that should be a helpful statement, but it was like, I was just using it in a toxic way for myself. So anywho, when the plagues happened, I was like, all right, I'm willing to admit defeat here. And like, what else is available? I literally log on the computer and like the first thing is like, here's this fellowship in integrative medicine. Well, my mom's a massage therapist. I grew up, she would take me to like alternative healing kind of, I'm like, this is my wheelhouse. I totally could do that. I signed up, no idea what I was going to do with it, but it's the first time in my life that I went off script because I was valedictorian in my high school, which then meant that I did really well in college, which then meant that I go to medical school, which then meant I'm get into a good residency, and then I'm chair there, and then I'm, all this sort of stuff. For the first time, I'm just like, F it, I'm just going to see where this goes. This is very uncharacteristic for me. And I mean, even at work, I was like, I think I'm going to do this fellowship. And they're like, well, how much does it cost? And like, I don't know if that's a good investment. I'm like, I don't care. Do you know how much I spent on my car? Less than this. And this is something for me. And I don't know, something about just that I had to get so uncomfortable that I had to try something. I hadn't tried anything yet. And what was that giving? What was the result of that? Absolute misery is what the result was. And it just blew my mind open. And I was like, it turns out I don't have a brick and mortar integrative medicine thing, but it was so liberating for me to do something for myself and to just start somewhere.
Yeah.
It turns out that's the step that then got me to find out there's a health and wellness coaching program that I would be eligible for after I finish my fellowship. But I wanted to do it before that. So then that led me to the life coach school and becoming certified that way in parallel. It just was, I had to take a different step and a new path to get me to the next step, to get me to the next right step. And that was something that I was ill prepared for. Nobody, like, what do you mean you don't have a plan? Like, that was wild for me. And now I'm like, why don't we do this all the time? It's because of our primitive brain trying to keep us safe.
Right.
I mean, now I know that, but I didn't know that. That wasn't available to me at the time. And once I did find coaching and realized my ruminating and the way, I didn't know that was a voice in my head, like the self-talk. I just thought that's what I didn't have the capacity to question whether what it was telling me was true or not.
Right.
It just was right. Yeah, I can't believe you missed that. I can't believe I missed that when there's 18 patients in the hall and there's like 75 patients in the waiting room and stuff's exploding. No wonder I missed it. But I would judge myself as if I were in like some pristine vacuum where I only had one patient the entire shift. Like it was just really unmanageable expectations. And then when I couldn't hit those things, it was, just relentless, exhaustive ruminating about it. All of which is in my control, but I didn't know that.
No, 100%. And I don't want you, I want to say something as well, too. I
Yeah.
think also, not only that, because as physicians, we are high achievers. We're very likely type A people in some way, shape,
Yeah.
form, or fashion in our lives. Because, of course, we wouldn't have gotten through medical school if we weren't. But then it's also the culture that we
Oh,
continue
yeah.
to put ourselves in, no matter if it's in emergency medicine, if it's anesthesia, if it's pediatrics, no matter what the specialty is, the house of medicine in and of itself is very much, this is what you do, this is who you are, these are the rules, this is the structure, this is the plan. Like you said, you do med school, you do residency, you get an academic job, then you get tenure, then you're the chair or vice chair, then chair, then you have this trajectory. So any type of deviation off of that, everyone is like, what the heck is wrong with you? And so
Right.
I totally relate to that, because I was telling you guys offline, I was supposed to do neurocritical care fellowship afterwards. And I had one of my rock bottom moments where I truly realized, like, I didn't want anybody to know about it. People were asking me like, oh, congratulations, you got into fellowship. I'm like, who told you? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not excited about this, because that's not truly what I wanted to do, but I didn't have the words, the boundaries in place to say that. So it took me I didn't get chiggers, or I didn't have a gash, or the plagues didn't hit me, but it just hit me. It's always me like just crashing in my bed and just like crying my eyes out. I always have these moments in my life. It's just like, where I'm just like literally down, like physically down, and cannot get up. And it's just like, okay, something's got to change. And I just decided, I'm not going to do this. I don't know what my plan is, but I'm not going to do this anymore. And it was making those phone calls and people being like, icing me out later, because I did not follow the prescribed plan of being not only the first class, a part of the first class of these residents, but to be the first one to actually do a neurocritical care fellowship and all the prestige and the great
Right.
things that that's supposed to look like. I'm not going to have my name on all these academic papers.
Yes.
I don't need that. That's not what I want. That's not what fulfills me. So I'm just so glad that we are able to, I think in all of you guys' stories, we're able to see and show that it's the house of medicine in and of
Yes.
itself, the system that we're continuing to
Yes.
subject ourselves to, that's part of the negative self-talk, the fact that our amygdalas are screaming at us every single day because it's echoing what we're already being told from
Yes.
administration, from our directorship sometimes, from patients sometimes. It's like, okay, we can't win, so why am I even doing this? So
Exactly. I remember as a kid, when I'm 12 years old, I remember this. I don't know if I like wrote it down or what, but I was getting punished. And I remember thinking, you don't need to punish me. I've already done this to myself far more than you could ever hurt me.
Yeah.
exactly.
And it's that kid that then went to medical school and residency, and everything is like, but you can't screw it because this is patients' lives. Listen, I don't need you over my shoulder making it more extreme. I've already held myself to an amazingly high standard. You're only making me neurotic. But that is the culture of medicine, is like, don't screw it up. Like,
Yeah.
you're affecting patients, you're affecting their entire families. I don't need your help to make this more serious. I'm already at level 12.
Yeah.
Right.
And whose
I
And then
script
put me
is
in an
it?
M&M and fillet me in public humiliation. Perfect. That's great for a person like me. Perfectly healthy.
Yeah,
I
and
have
whose script is it though? I mean, right? So like what script are we talking about? I mean, I think that's the other awareness is like this is the medical program or script that we don't, I mean, we can't even answer that question. Like
It
whose
wasn't,
script
because it
is it?
wasn't made for
It
us.
wasn't. It wasn't.
It
It
was
wasn't
never
made
made for
for
us.
longevity in the career, health in the career, wellness. It wasn't. So, like, whose script is it? So, who is to say, though, that it's time for a shift or a new script or how about we write the script, right? Because we really can't pin it back to anyone, as far as I know.
Yeah. And that was my motivation. Like, when I realized how much of my suffering was optional just because I didn't know to challenge that voice, and I didn't know to not accept the story that's being given to me of like, it's all your fault whenever something wrong goes with a patient. How's that possible? That then I was like, that could have saved me 15 years of not being able to sleep at night and the unbelievable dread driving into work. No wonder everyone's burned out. And so
Right.
that is very much my passion of like, no, I've been where you are. Let me help you out because it doesn't have to be this way.
No. Kimberly, I have a special way I describe the medical culture and system
Yeah.
that may resonate with you, and that it is a narcissistic system of abuse. And if you look at the it is very much like a narcissistic family. I grew up in one of those, and the rules are the same. If you look up narcissistic family system rules, somebody's got to be blamed. Everybody has to make the family look good. That sounds like what you experienced after your residency. Like
Yeah.
you weren't playing the game to make them look good, so you get in trouble.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's actually the perfect way to think about it, and that's exactly what happened to me. I felt like I was punished because I didn't, like I said, follow the rules and make the program look good at the time. And I also blame the fact that, of course, we're all women here, so I feel like I feel free to say this. Medicine was never meant for us. It was always for, well, I'll say Western medicine, was for the white male patriarchy to go to work, and the women were supposed to be the nursing, the assistants, kind of doing the actual things. The system never expected, I think, as many women that it is now, and it needs to shift and adapt because of women. We still have other responsibilities other than taking care of patients, but also it was built off of our backs as people of color. I will say that as well too. All of the research that has been done from anatomy, physiology, OBGYN, pretty much almost every specialty. Mine is probably emergency medicine because we're such in the new house, our newest specialty to join. But the foundations of what we know in like I said, Western medicine was based on the backs of people of color. And then, of course, it was never meant for women to be able to be there. We were supposed to be at home, taking care of the kids, or at the patient's bedside, doing the doctor's orders and doing the doctor's bidding. So it was never adaptive for our lifestyles, our needs, anything like that. And I feel like because we're modern women, and let go with me on this and let me know if you guys have any other extra thoughts, but it's like we as modern women now are trying to make an antiquated system work for us, where we're now in a place where we can get our own bank accounts. We don't have to have our husbands, our fathers, or anything else. We're autonomous. And it seems like there's still so many patriarchal ways that the House of Medicine still works, meaning we need to follow what the C-suite says, and whatever the C-suite says has to go. And we need to follow this directive, even though we've got other things as well too. What do you guys' thoughts about that?
I would say it all comes back to who do you want to be, and to really pay attention to how you want to author your own life, and take away the expectations that are laid out for you, set them aside, and take responsibility for what it is that we want, and open our minds. We can craft a career that has multiple things going on, that is part clinical and part doing something else. Maybe you have a rental investment property business, or shoot, you can do real estate on the side. You can do consulting. There's so many things that can be done to make to flesh out what will really help us feel fulfilled, and not let expectations, whether they be of our partners or of our directors or the C-suite, not let that direct how we're going to live our lives. We get one life. We get this set allotment of time. A number that really wakes me up sometimes is knowing we get about 4,000 weeks if we live to 80. Like, that's not much time. And so are we gonna live our lives listening to, I love Pride and Prejudice, and I don't know if you know this quote, but Elizabeth Bennet in that movie or in the book, this woman is telling her a bunch of stuff about how she should be and what she should be. And she's like, I'm not going to listen to anyone so wholly unconnected to me. Like I'm going to author my own life.
I love that.
To your point, Dr. Brown, you're exactly right. I mean, the way that the system that we have inherited used to be even more toxic. You'd start out with like 6 residents. You'd dedicate your entire life. It's called residency because you lived at the hospital. You weren't allowed to be married. And you might not even get the job. They would end up weeding out the weaker ones, the weaker ones, the weaker ones to finally get to the one who may or may not get a job. There was no guarantee. And so, but that's at the same time that child labor was cool too. And other industries have adapted and evolved. And we're still being like, that's kind of the mentality that we've inherited. And the people teaching us have also come from an even more toxic system. And so it's hard to wrap your mind around when you think you're okay and that's how I got trained, then this is how I should train the next generation, except for it's not working anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're only judged by your results. I don't care that that's how it used to be. It's not working anymore. And so it is time for the medical system as a whole to evolve. But we also have to be aware that that's what we're stepping into and not buy into it anymore.
Right.
We have to be the example.
Right, exactly. I was going to say that leads me back to the question that I wanted to ask Kendra more specifically, but it came up with each and every one of you guys. We all have had our rock bottom moments that kind of pivoted us, of course, now to entrepreneurship and coaching more specifically. So I guess my question to you, Kendra, and then whoever wants to jump in after this, is tell me about when you decided to hire your first coach and what did you do to make that decision? I say that to say also, coaching is something that is very new to the House of Medicine because we're antiquated, Amanda, like we just said. We are stuck in the, I don't even know what hundreds, but coaching is something that has been a part of so many different industries for so many different years. So I'm super curious how you found out about coaching, even the type of coach that you hired as first, and like how you even got to be aware of that. And then even more about if you want to share some of your first wins that you've ever had with working with a coach.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, when Amanda and I were first like just meeting for lunch and just talking about things, and she found that integrative medicine fellowship with the University of Arizona, they had the health and wellness coaching program. And so when she was doing her research and decided to do the fellowship, I kind of looked into it. I'm a DO, so we got a lot of that in training. I think it's a little bit heavy on like, Eastern versus Western medicine, a lot of the homeopathic, naturopathic, we got a lot of it. And so just talking to her, I was like, yeah, I got a lot of that in training. We talked about like what we wanted it to look like. Do we want to like a brick and mortar, whatever? And then she had mentioned they have this coaching program. And in the meantime, her colleagues also were going through their Laura and Amanda's coaching, where they got their certifications different than mine, but their colleagues were needing to get like coaching hours basically. And so they gave them my number, like, here's a candidate, right? So like my first were just be like getting coached by students going through the coaching program and just experiencing coaching that way. Kind of like typically we say, once you're ready, come to coaching. Well, I was just trying to help a sister out. But after the first session or two, I was like, oh, wait, whoa, right? And you're just, you have just such quick revelation and realization and the things that are said. I had so many like aha, like mind blown moments. I was like, wait a minute, right? And so I was kind of serendipitously thrusted into that, knowing that, definitely it was where the Lord had directed our path. And so then, hiring a coach, and then subsequently within about 6 months, I enrolled in, the prereqs I needed for the University of Arizona program. and then, subsequently going that way, and then switching to a different coach that was within that program. And then, like I said, then getting my training, and then, once again, needing clients to practice my coaching. And then along the way, it's been very, interesting to see how, like, I've been with several different coaches from like different backgrounds that have helped me through different seasons. So like right now, I'm in marriage therapy, but I'm also like doing some marriage coaching, some online stuff so that's kind of gone hand
Mhm.
in hand during this season, because once you start getting to coaching, all of these things, and so now this season is prioritizing my marriage. So different seasons I have been involved with different types of coaching, but it was really that, man, the first session or two was just like so many realizations. And like I would sit there even after the session would be over, and I was just like, I need to process this, I mean, just like 30, 45 minutes of just sitting there like, what just happened? But in that, the growth, I mean, it was just so quick, and like and like I felt like I was leveling up every session. Um, and to the fact that my brain, I mean, once you started getting into coaching yourself, like my brain was spinning. And that's what Amanda and I would meet with. And then Laura would be like, oh my gosh, I mean, we just started spinning, because you immediately see this, like we talk about get relief stat, like you immediately have like, oh, like feel relief. You're just like, okay, how can we do this? Right. And so that really propelled us into, okay, let's cast vision. Let's see how we can mass distribute, like information gathering. And then it was like, oh yeah, that's a business. Oh yeah, we need some business training. Oh yeah, right? So we were just wanting to like help a brother and sister out, but it's like, oh yeah, this is a business. So let's do that too. Like let's learn some stuff about that. And but it's been great.
I absolutely love that. Laura, Amanda, your first experience with a coach, how you got in, how you found a coach, what made you decide that that was the decision? Okay, I need a coach.
The only person I had was familiar with at the time, because like you mentioned, this is unbelievably new in medicine. The only person I had ever even heard of was Katrina Ubel, who is actually a weight loss coach, who's a pediatrician married to a ear, nose, and throat doc, and she used coaching for weight loss. Well, I started listening to her podcast. It turns out there's a whole bunch about her podcast that has nothing to do with weight loss, and it has a lot to do with mind shifting. And so COVID started, and I do have a tendency to use food to self-soothe, but I never did the coaching for that purpose specifically. I wanted to find out more about all the other stuff that she was talking about, and my marriage needed. So I enrolled in her program eventually, after I gave it another 6 months of trying it on my own, and I needed, help. I realized I was going to need an outside perspective to be able to change that voice in my head. But yeah, I used it for relationship with food, marriage, irritating people that, remote family members, patient care. I used it for everything and weight loss, but I knew that that was an option to just, all right, what I want to come to talk about today has nothing to do with eating or weight loss. But here you go. Help me. So, it's
But
just
she
because she was
did.
the only one I'd ever heard about. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then that got me into once I was in there, I tried all the things. So,
I love that. Laura?
Yeah. Yeah. So I got introduced to it through Katrina as well, primarily through her podcast. And then from her podcast, I started listening to Brooke Castillo's podcast, the Life Coach School podcast. And my mind was blown. Like I could not, I was like, whoa, this is so, I mean, it was truly life changing. It changed my brain and helped me realize so many things, like number one, that all my thoughts are not true. I was like, wait, what? So I started getting coaching through Brooke's program, and I'll tell you one of my big wins is there's so many, but the thing about working with a coach is the coach sees things we can't see. Just like you can't see the back of your head, you can't check your back for melanoma. Like you can't check your own brain all the time. You can do a little checking, but it is like brain hygiene, honestly. Like you go and they're like, you see what you're doing here? And I'm like, what? I don't think I'm doing that. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Oh, I am doing. So, and wanting to be like aware of what I'm doing that's not helping me is a huge motivator to keep going. And it is so funny. Sometimes my coach now, actually, I have a therapist and a coach, and like a lot of our clients do. And when I talk to the coach, she's like, I don't always like what she has to say, but she's right. She's typically right. One of the big wins I had early on was when I was complaining about some interpersonal situation. And the coach was like, what if this is an opportunity for you to grow and for you to become more of your best self? And kind of pointed out how that was a possibility where I'm just looking for someone to commiserate with me, right? Yeah, of course, they're terrible. And she's reframing it for me for my growth and my benefit. And I was like, whoa, okay. And that, I mean, that's the thing with coaching is your coach can say things that will literally change your life. They will point things out and help you come to awareness for yourself that is transformative. It's the most, to me, it's the most remarkable process I've ever been a part of.
Laura, I totally can relate to that. But here's my question to you, because as someone that's also had a therapist, had a coach, and now I am a coach, what do you think is the difference? And Amanda as well too. What do you think the difference between therapy and coaching is?
Yeah, that is a great question. So therapy, as I mentioned, I grew up in this really dysfunctional household. Although you don't have to grow up in a dysfunctional household to benefit from therapy. Therapy helps you kind of go back in the past and look at those patterns with more of a closer eye. And they have special techniques like EMDR or internal family systems, things like that, that they can help, you know, they can help rewire in those specialized way. If there's any trauma that is really, that's kind of past trauma is kind of the domain of the therapist. Coaching is more present and future focused.
Mm-hmm.
And while a therapist will let you talk and talk and talk, a coach is going to be a little bit more directive in terms of the coach is going to guide you, and it's a little bit more confrontational sometimes in the best way and like in the kindest way, just to say, hey, do you see this? Like, this is a thought you're expressing and you're welcome to keep it if it's serving you and you want it. But if that's not really something that you want to believe and have the fruits of that thought come into your life, then let's look at that. Can we make a shift? Is there something else believable and true? And like what are the reasons for thinking that? And let's acknowledge and have compassion for that. And then like, what do we want to do now? What is it that we want for ourselves now and in the future? That's the difference for me for coaching. And they both are wonderful. They both serve their own purpose. To me, the faster results I have had are definitely with coaching.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree with that. Amanda?
I would just add to that. One thing that I really do love about coaching is that it believes that you're not broken, that you have everything you need right now.
Yeah.
To self-determine, you've got everything you need to take the next step on your path and create the life that you want to. You might have a diagnosis. Okay, and what do you want to do with it? It's not looking for you to stay in that cycle of brokenness or this is just how I am because this happened early on. It's like, yeah, okay, here's the poop sandwich that you got. And now what do you want to do with it? Like, let's go.
Right. Right. I think that's why I love it as well too. One, because I think some of us may need a therapist and a coach, just depending on our life experiences and what we are trying to achieve and trying to heal, as well too. But I love coaching because like you said, Laura, it is about the present and the future. Like, okay, we know this now. Now what do we want to do about it? Therapy is so much about getting to the root of things and understanding the why, and then like you said, healing that trauma and all of those things as well too. Whereas coaching is not ignoring that there's trauma there or ignoring any of that. It's like, okay, now that you have this awareness, how can we still move forward and create whatever you're trying to achieve, whether that is a business or a better marriage or a better relationship or even just better, work-life balance, whatever the goal of what you're working with your coach with. So thank you guys for sharing that, because I think that's one of the things that I get asked a lot is like, well, what is coaching? Like, what does this even mean? And why is everybody becoming coaches? Because I'm like, well, it's really fun to help people to get into action and not just commiserate and just wallow all the time. There's times for that, but there's also a lot more time to get into action. Like you said, there's only 4,000 weeks we have in our life. If we live to 80, that was, wow, that kind of shook me when you said that, because I never thought about that. Like we are here for a finite period of time, so might as well, as I like to say, might as well just go ahead and do the stuff that you want to do and not be focused on the negativity. So I guess that brings me, of course, to the whole physician. So I would love to know how specifically you guys came together, and then tell me some of your client wins. Like, how are you helping people? What is it like to work with you guys inside of the whole physician?
I can take that one then. Yeah. It's just awesome. For one thing, most of us have not had a safe place to vent, and it's not all about venting, but having a place where you can talk to another doctor who 100% understands and affirms and validates how crappy it is and how much you are enduring in your day-to-day medical practice. That is very healing. There's a saying that is, to be heard is to be healed, and that's our first step. Is we love that moment where in fact, we do something called a physician triage session, and it's so cool to just watch people just kind of exhale, and they feel heard and they start feeling better immediately. And we have a whole process where we treat physician burnout like a chemical burn. Like, if you came in with a chemical burn, you're triaged, you're going to go to decontamination. That's where we talk about all the negative programming that we get through our training, probably in our childhood too, and kind of wash that off. And then we go to resuscitation, which is where we learn additional things that we never knew. We never learned how to set a boundary. None of us did, most likely, and things like that. And then we move on to optimizing from there. So our clients, we have an online course that they work through as they do one-on-one coaching with us. And we love it. We've also started working with some hospitals and providing the course to them for their doctors who want it. And that's been really great to hear how much benefit people get just from the course. So it is, we have had so many client wins. We have I have a whole page of them, but we have people who've said that we've saved their career, people who have huge improvements in their marriage, interpersonal skill improvement, and burnout. In fact, we did a little study with the first iteration of our course, and And 100% of people at the end of it felt more hopeful. And we were like, dang, this is stuff doctors need. And that to us was like, we just felt so gratified by that, that we found something that actually works and actually helps doctors feel better.
We joke that because you are eligible to get CME from our course, and we like to joke that not once have I left a trauma conference feeling more hopeful.
Never have I ever either.
Yeah. Or would recommend to, all of that sort of stuff. So
That's so cool. So did you guys start with just having one-on-one coaching with clients, or did you always start with the digital course with a hybrid of one-on-one?
We started with that course. I will say too, like this is another side gig that doctors could do, making your own digital course.
Absolutely.
Like say if you're a nephrologist and you want to teach people about diabetes, you could create a diabetes course and sell that thing online. Like it is, it's, I won't say it's easy. It's a lot of work, but it's fun to do actually, to learn how to do. So
Absolutely.
if you're a pediatrician and you could teach people how to put their kids to sleep or something, that newborn period, holy moly. Like there's so much stuff that people are dying to know, and you could put it on a course. You don't even have to, especially if you're full time, but that course runs on its own. So like, please go for it. Get somebody who's actually credible to be putting the information out there.
Please.
Instead of other options.
And you know what? I'm so glad that you said that. Get someone that's actually credible. I think what a lot of doctors get held back on is like, well, I'm not certified in this. And so, or I've never done this before, kind of going back to that. But there are so many people out there that are experienced in their own specific way, and they also don't have certifications or the degrees or the titles. It's their lived experience that they are able to say, this is the system that I did to put my kid back to sleep and my third child back to sleep, and then I helped my friend down the street get her kid back to sleep, and they see the pattern and they realize it, and then they take that. But I feel like, again, because of the self-talk that we always have, our very loud amygdalas that doctors have, that we are just saying, oh no, I'm not qualified for that. Well, does anybody really want that? How many patients come to you asking for help? Or like, is it okay for me to give my kid melatonin right now at 2 years old because this little boy will not sleep? Yes, there's so many people that have these problems, but it comes from the belief in self that we need to have, and the acknowledgement of our story and our experiences that we have that can solve people's problems. And that's how I teach my clients as well too. Like, there are so many problems that you can solve, and that's literally what you're doing as a business owner. You are selling the solution to the problem that you identify. So I love that you said that. There's so many different things that even digital courses could be built off of. Anything.
Y'all, we
coaching
just gave
too.
like some pediatrician out there is going to make $50 million on that. Like
Just that idea.
Yes, people will be giving it to as baby shower gifts, like for real. You're welcome.
But the other thing you're alluding to, which is so important when you're switching out of medicine and into entrepreneurship, is there is no place for perfectionism for that. You have got to change your mindset to, I'm going to keep failing until I figure out the right way to go. Failure is the only way to get to the next step. You are going to botch it a bazillion times, and that's okay. It's expected.
It's expected.
That is so different from the way that we are trained. It is a completely different part of your brain that you're going to have to tap into to be willing to make a fool of yourself on behalf of the people that you're going to end up helping.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And picking yourself up again, looking at what you did, tweaking it, like you said, reiterating on that and going right back at it again, and knowing that that could fail as well too, but seeing that there's information along the way. And I'm sure you guys have experienced that as far as, how your curriculum is already laid out. I was just thinking about when you were saying about failing over and over, and I'm thinking about sales calls that have gone crazy and the no's that I've heard. And I've even thought about some of the first frameworks that I created for my first clients, and they didn't get the result. They didn't get to achieve that.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, I put myself out there. I failed. Let me see what I can do this time. And being willing to, I say burn it down, because I talk about burnout a lot, and a lot of my stuff is burnout related, but burn it down and build it back up from scratch again and saying, okay, let's try this. And that's been working for clients, and they've been getting results and things like that. But it has to be, like you said, the willingness to fail, the willingness to be wrong. And I say fail in the sense of letting it have your first attempt at learning and not just,
Yeah.
I'm terrible at business, I don't know anything, but to reframe that even as an entrepreneur as well too.
Yeah, I love it. You said it perfectly. There's only winning and learning. The only way you fail is if you quit. Like even when you hit a dead wall or a dead end, you've figured out how not to do it. And so you're already better for the next attempt.
Yeah.
So good. So good. Well, Laura, Amanda, we miss Kendra because she has to go help another doctor. I love that. She has a client call. Please tell us all about where we can reach you, how we can find you, and if anyone is interested in joining the Whole Physician, how do they get in touch and all of those things?
You want me to do that too?
Sure.
Okay, so our program is called Wellness 911. As a hat tip to our emergency medicine background, it is for all physicians. We have some APPs also in our program. And you can just go to our website, www.thewholephysician.com. We have a free kind of informational video there to explain the program. And we have a podcast of our own if you're curious about, how we operate. It is called the Drive Time Debrief with the Whole Physician, with the idea that it's a kind of a way to decompress on the way home from work or to a shift. So those are our big two things. And just reach out. We offer a free consult call for anyone who just needs to talk. And so that's available on our website as well. So
awesome. And if people wanted to find you guys individually, like if they had questions about if they decided to be a wellness coach or burnout coach, or they just relate to your story, just want to connect with you, is there a way that people can reach you guys individually, maybe on social media?
Oh yeah, we are on social media too. I always block that out because it's not my favorite. Yes, you could DM us on Instagram at The Whole Physician.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Again, this went from us interacting with each other at AAM and us being on a panel to now this. So thank you, Amanda, Laura, and thank you, Kendra, too. I hope your client call is going very well for your time. And thank you for just spending your time with the Docs Get Money audience. I love this conversation because we were able to, I almost heard so many different echoes of my story and other people's stories. And there's just, like I said, there's so many possibilities for us out there once we decide to think something different and to believe something different for ourselves. So thank you all for sharing your story and sharing your business with us today.
It's an honor. Thank you so much. It was so delightful. Like, would you be available to come? Like, yes.
Yes.
It's so nice. Someone wants to talk to us. That's great.
Of course I do. And this was, like I said, an amazing conversation. Thank you for listening to the Docs Get Money podcast. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you find your favorite podcast. Share, comment, follow, and subscribe to the Docs Get Money podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to know more, visit me, Dr. Kimberly Brown, at KimberlyBrownMD.com, and be sure to follow me at Dr. Kimberly B on Instagram. And until next time, let's go get this money, honey.